Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Wondergoal, the soccer betting podcast from the Action Network. My name is Michael Lieboff, and I am licking my wounds after getting bageled match week 1. Pretty hard to do, but who better to lick my wounds with than my co-hosts, BJ Cunningham and Anthony DeBundo. But before I bring these two gentlemen in to break down the upcoming weekend in soccer, we'll go game by game in the Premier League, touch on the Bundesliga, Harry Kane's new home, La Liga, Serie A, Ligue 1, give out our infamous 3-leg underdog parlay, and this week is an absolute doozy, and also give out our favorite bets in the Premier League. But before we get to all that, a reminder that Wondergoal is presented to you by Bet365, the world's favorite sportsbook brand. Sign up with promo code ACTION to get Bet365's exclusive sign-up offer. Bet $1 on any game. Get $200 in bonus bets. You must be 21 or older. The offer is available in Colorado, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, and BJ's native Iowa in the United States. If you have a gambling problem or you know anyone with a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Okay, 9 Premier League matches to talk about. Luton Town and Burnley can't play this weekend because of the renovations undergoing at Luton's home, Kenilworth Road. That means we'll start this podcast because we probably were going to start with that one as the headliner, but now the new headliner is Man City hosting Newcastle, a title 6-pointer. City's minus 163 at home, Newcastle plus 425. The draw is plus 320. These odds, of course, are from our friends at Bet365. City is going to be without Kevin De Bruyne, it seems, for quite some time. They are also going to be on short rest here after playing Sevilla in the Super Cup I think it was in Greece. And that match went into penalty kicks. It does feel like we're going to see a lot of action on Newcastle here. And I don't hate it. So, BJ, you'd be leaning that way, I saw in our show notes. But you think the number's too short. I don't know if it is.
I mean, City opened around minus 230 here before this happened. And then obviously Newcastle had a unbelievable performance at home against Aston Villa. City loses De Bruyne, then they have to go on short rest, and now we're sitting around, City minus 155, which is, have we seen them this short at home against somebody in the Premier League other than, maybe 2 matches against Liverpool in the past? I'm not so sure. So, Newcastle, the first time they played City was kind of interesting because they weren't the Newcastle that we know now. And they actually blitzed City multiple times in transition, scored 3 goals at St. James Park. But then when they went back and played at the Etihad, City controlled a lot of that possession. Newcastle didn't really create a lot of chances in transition. And that's where it comes down to me is City is so good defensively. Like, I know they conceded the header today to Serie, but they're so good defensively, essentially playing 5 center backs, that it makes it very, very hard for me to see how Newcastle's physicality and press is going to beat them up and create those transitional opportunities that they're so good at doing against other teams. I had City projected at minus 132. So I was, I'm kicking myself for not getting Newcastle plus 1.5 early. Now I would really like that number. And if it was that number, I would be coming to the window to bet that. But now we're getting too short we're at, Newcastle plus 1 at minus 120. I don't want to pay minus 120 on a plus 1. Like it's an expensive price to pay, especially going up against the defending champions. So De Bruyne is obviously a huge loss. Bernardo Silva can slot into that role, and City will be okay. But City should be able to build up against Newcastle. I don't see them succumbing to their press. And once you get past the Newcastle press, are they really going to be able to stop Haaland and company once they get that open space going forward? I'm not so sure. So this is a pass for me. I don't think we'll see any more City steam, but I agree the spot's not great for City, and Newcastle looked the most impressive, I'd say, of anybody in match week 1. So I think what you're getting here is just your classic overreaction to what happened in match week 1.
Yeah, you ask a lot of NFL bettors, they always talk about how week 2 is their favorite week to bet because you can buy against the overreaction. I don't know if I generally think that this one falls into that bucket. I know that the line crashed, but I think a lot of that is, the De Bruyne gets hurt, and City going to play a European match on Wednesday today as we're recording this. So I understand why, and obviously the Newcastle performance. Like I understand why the line is moving towards the Magpies, but I also think this is just who they are. I think we can all learn to accept that Newcastle is just a really good Premier League team at this point. Playing on song, like they all seem to have really gotten into Eddie Howe's philosophy and tactics, and I mean even Anthony Gordon looked really good.
He did.
We don't say that often.
Yeah, he was really good for them. But yeah, it's a 3:00 kick on Saturday, so I'll have time, but I'm having a tough time envisioning myself not betting Newcastle. I think this is part of, I say this a lot on the show. Newcastle's good enough that when they get to this number, no matter who they're playing and where they're playing, it's just going to be tempting. They're just in that bracket now. Anthony, what are your thoughts here?
Well, first off, won my first bet involving City unders this season today, so I should retire on top. But I thought it was really interesting because, I lost a lot of money betting against City, in case you hadn't noticed last season. But I thought it was really interesting Pep Guardiola's post-match comments about the short turnaround. He said, we want to thank the Premier League for giving us a Saturday game instead of a Sunday or Monday. He's already started whining. And that was in a match in which he made no real rotation to his starting 11 and no subs until the final minutes of the game. So, there's some real fatigue potential here for City as they kind of get their way into this season and they kind of figure out what they're going to do tactically. Because what worked for City so well last year is that they got ridiculous levels of production from Mahrez, De Bruyne, and Grealish, and then, of course, Haaland. And they didn't really need to send many numbers forward. They were very passive and didn't really, overwhelm teams by sending huge numbers of forward. And that's what made them so dominant defensively. They attacked with 4, maybe 5, especially once Gundogan kind of had that late season surge in goals as like the 5th man at the end of the penalty area. Well, now they lose Gundogan, they lose Mahrez, they lose Kevin De Bruyne. And I just don't think that Palmer, Foden, and Alvarez are as good. And I think that there's going to be some drop-off and probably a considerable one in, not just the service into Haaland, but the production around Haaland. I mean, as good as he was, you do need other goals to sustain your attack and to really get margin from these teams. So, Kevin De Bruyne in 22 minutes, I wrote this today in the Sevilla preview, in 22 minutes, he had 3 passes and 2 crosses into the box, which is insane. Now they don't have him. Like, who's the guy that's playing the balls into the box for the City team, into Haaland? I like Bernardo Silva. He just signed a contract. But what does his preseason look like? Because he's been looking for a move for a while. And Kovacic as the replacement isn't quite the same as Gundogan or De Bruyne. It's a different kind of player. So I have my doubts about them. I agree that the market has moved pretty solidly toward Newcastle, and I think that's it was a bad look ahead. I mean, minus 230 is a bad number. I would have loved Newcastle. I think we're all in agreement there. If this gets up to about +1, minus 110, I will fire on the Magpies. But BJ's right, at the minus 120, 125 that you have to lay right now, it's a little bit steep for me. But I mean, Newcastle opening day, I mean, it played out almost exactly like the friendly did against Villa, where they just got in behind over and over and over again. Isak's creativity and the defense showed a couple of cracks, but I thought they played overall pretty well. Tonali getting forward too, adding some more goals to make up for, not starting Callum Wilson and bringing him off the bench, which I thought was interesting too. So I lean toward the Magpies for sure here, but have not bet it.
All right, let's skip to Friday then, or skip back to Friday. So that's that 3 p.m. start between City and Newcastle on Saturday. So the Premier League did give Pep a little bit of breathing room to quiet him a bit.
Hours.
Yeah, a couple hours. If it was Klopp, I mean, I don't even know if Liverpool would play this game. They probably would protest it and ask to get it.
21s.
Yeah. All right, Friday afternoon, 2:45 kickoff between Nottingham Forest and Sheffield United. A relegation 6-pointer here. Forest odds on at home.
Oh my gosh.
Minus 118. Sheffield United plus 350. The draw is plus 250. We spoke a lot about Forest home and away splits last year. Minus 33 goal differential overall. Minus 30 on the road. Plus 3 at home. The expected goals about -8 at home, and minus 26 or so overall. So they were a little bit, lucky at home, but it was a distinct home field advantage. We'll see if that carries over. Sheffield United looked abject against Crystal Palace, but they signed Tom Davis, so
they did.
all their woes have been fixed by the handsome lad from Liverpool. I can't look away from this price against Forest. Like, you can't.
I don't understand it. It's not good.
You can't make Forest minus 118 against anybody.
Well,
maybe Luton, Luton Town. I don't even know.
Can I say
What's
something?
that?
They never were this high at all last season in every single match. I went through every single odds. The highest as they closed as a favorite was towards the end of last season. They closed as an even money favorite against Southampton, who I believe at the time was it was the last match before they were relegated, or it was pretty much like a foregone conclusion and it wasn't official. So they were getting like a huge bump because
and you know what I probably said during that match was, you can't make Forest an even money favorite against any team in the Premier League.
Exactly. I mean, this is crazy. I mean, Forest,
played well.
They won the expected goals battle against Arsenal. Like, big deal.
They were down 2-0 after 30 minutes.
Exactly. And the thing about Forest is last season, like, the only good thing they had going for them offensively is they kind of created some big scoring chances here and there. But they were dead last in final third entries, dead last in box entries, dead last in crosses completed in the penalty area, and dead last in expected threat. Other than Alanga, they haven't made any significant additions to their offense other than getting Awanawi healthy. So now they're supposed to be an odds-on favorite against a Sheffield United team that, yes, has sold some players, and their offense is pretty inept at this point, but this is a Sheffield United defense that last season only allowed 0.89 expected goals per 90 in the championship. They play 5 at the back. They play very compact. They're also, this stat here really caught me when I was going through Sheffield United, especially their performances in the championship. Because obviously in the championship you play 46 matches. Over 46 matches, they only conceded 9 total expected goals off of set pieces. They are a really, really solid compact defense. And yes, they did concede 1.9 expected goals to Crystal Palace, but it was really just one mistake inside the 6-yard box that Edouard put in. That shot at a XG rating of 0.64. Crystal Palace took 23 other shots beyond that one and only created 1.26 expected goals for the rest of the match. So it wasn't like, Crystal Palace had created a bunch of chances. They took a ton of shots, a ton of them were low quality, and United just made one mistake at the back. So I agree, Michael. I have Nottingham Forest projected at plus 142. I think it's insane that they're this high. I get that they're at home, and I get that United doesn't really have much of an offensive threat right now. But come on, this is crazy.
Yeah, I'm gonna bet Sheffield United right after I pass this to Anthony here, and so you'll see, you'll get even a better number on United if you wait, because with the way my betting went last week, the bookmakers are gonna say, "Oh, Leboff, he's on the blades. Let's make him 6-1." There's just not this wide of a gap between these two teams, especially in the second week of a season. We're not talking about a team being scrapped for depth or anything like that. This is a different beast from a February game where maybe Sheffield United's in a little bit of trouble because of their budget. But are they going to score? Are they going to be able to create? I don't know.
I like a plus a half.
Minus 115 at home is not that crazy to me.
For this match?
Yeah.
Why?
I mean, Sheffield, Forest came into the league as the second worst team last year. There are now worse teams, I think. And we could be wrong. Sheffield United, we need more data on them. Luton, we need more data. We can't have a direct opinion that's particularly strong power rating at this moment. So there certainly is some variance in that. But they did give up a ton of shots to Palace. The Palace didn't get over 20 shots. They had one time all of last season they got over 20 shots, and it was against Leicester. And we all know what happened with them. They didn't get over 19 any other match. Sheffield completed 60% of their passes. Every other team in the league was at least 67. So like it was really bad. They were at home first match. Like that's a great spot against a Palace team that we have all been kind of down on, saying like, well, they lost Zaha. At least they didn't play. Like they have no attack. How are they going to score? And they went out and just like lived in the Sheffield penalty area. So yeah, I have no interest here. I'm not laying it with Forest, but I think that the line's right.
Coming into the season, this was basically the second and third favorite for relegation. Yeah. Like these aren't good Premier League teams.
There was a big gap between them.
Yeah, no, there is, and there still is. Like you look at the odds right now. Sheffield United's like minus 220 now to be relegated after one match, and Nottingham Forest is like 2-1, maybe a little bit north of 2-1. So I get that there's a gap, but it's
Forest didn't play well again. They played well, quote unquote, against Arsenal because their back line actually did a really nice job like defending under a lot of pressure, but they weren't like sticking it to Arsenal at any point in that match. Like it was a lot of just defend and pray, and they did some really good last ditch defending. But again, it's like Taiwo comes on, scores. Like when he's on the pitch, they're not bad attacking.
Yeah, and Brennan Johnson had a chance that
he's terrible
early on, but
he is horrible. He is. I mean, they need somebody. Who was it that's in for him? Oh, West Ham are offering 40 plus million for
Brentford.
Brennan
Was in for him too.
That is a little crazy to me too. But yeah, Brennan Johnson like played all of last year and was just not good.
Yeah. All right. So a little disagreement here. I can't.
I'm with you, Michael.
Yeah, I can't see this number being like this. Fulham and Brentford now 10 a.m.s on Saturday. There's no 7:30 because City's playing at 3 p.m. Eastern time.
BJ Super Bowl.
Yeah, this is
I have many Super Bowls throughout the season, Anthony.
And this is the first one.
This is Fulham plus 170 at home. Bournemouth a slight road favorite plus 162, and the draw plus 240. We'll talk more about it when we get to Everton, but it was the same song and dance for Fulham.
Yeah,
I mean, I feel like this does happen too. We'll like target a team. We'll have them circled as a regression candidate for the next season, and then the first game, I feel like they always just come out and catch all the breaks, and the other team can't finish, and then eventually it does catch up to them.
Yep.
It's Brentford or nothing here, and I just was wishing for a little bit of a bigger number, but I'll probably still do it. Bees. Yep. BJ, what about you?
Yep. Bees draw no bet minus 112. This is about as simple as it gets on this podcast. I mean, listen, it's a long season. Like these things are going to happen. I'm not going to sit here and just berate Fulham because I got unlucky because I had Everton. I mean, it is what it is. They've done this to me before. They'll continue to do it. Conceded 2.7 expected goals. Everton somehow couldn't score any of them. For some reason, Michael Leno just spilled the ball in the penalty area, but somehow it was a foul, even though they put it in.
Yeah, it was bad.
Fulham gets a big scoring chance. They convert it. And yeah, that's about how it goes. Everton took the first 10. They took 10 of the first 11 shots in that match and created 3 big scoring chances. So what are you going to do? Fulham still without Paulinho. That's massive for them, as we've seen throughout many times last year and the match against Everton. Brentford, they smashed them at the Brentford Community Stadium last season. Mitrovic was on the pitch for all 90 minutes there. As of today, it looks like Mitrovic is off to Saudi Arabia, which means that it's going to be the Raul Jimenez show up top for Fulham.
He looked okay.
I thought
he was pretty good.
Yeah, I mean,
against Everton,
he's okay, but he got one shot and one aerial duel.
Hit the post.
Maybe not the best, but with him up top, if we'll see what kind of production they get over fall season. But the one big advantage they had here is Brentford does allow a lot of crosses into their penalty area. That's something Fulham obviously was very good at last season because they had Mitrovic. Well, without him and Raul Jimenez up top, that might take away the one big advantage they have. Fulham was also bottom 3 in defending set pieces, which is always bad news when you're facing Brentford. This is just, I mean, Anthony's probably going to tell you the market's getting a little drunk on Brentford here, and it kind of is, but I mean, I have Brentford projected at plus 124, so I'll take them draw no bet at minus 112.
Yeah, I mean, Brentford played well against Spurs. I thought they were a pretty even game. Tottenham I think in a way, we talk about Brentford at home and how good they've been. Brentford going on the road and sitting in their kind of like rest defense and then waiting for Fulham to give the ball away and then destroying them in transition, like, is a decent path to success. And with Fulham, they did sign crossing legend Adama Traore. So
That's true. They did. I
be
forgot
on the
about
lookout for him as like an 80th minute super sub to score 2 quick goals when the Bees are up 1-0. But yeah, I mean, the meetings between these two teams last year, Brentford clearly was the better team in every category you can possibly imagine. But, pick them on the road. The question you're asking is like, is that worth? Is that about? Does home field advantage account for the gap in the two teams? You could maybe tell me that it's not big enough, like what BJ said, and that it should just still be the Bees. You could also tell me that it's about right. So it would be Bees or nothing. I'd imagine if Mitro's out, this line does start to move. But he did play, off the bench and isn't sold yet. So we will see on his front.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they just got destroyed.
Yeah, according to our friend
Bernd Leno.
Yeah, Bernd Leno. Gosh.
3.3 goals saved based on post-shot expected goals. The second best in the Prem was 0.9. So he was almost 4 times better than every other goalie in the league. And, of course, Neil Maupay. Is DCL back?
We'll talk.
We'll get to Everton.
We'll talk when we get there. But
yeah, as of our good friend Fabrizio Romano, that Al Hilal are finalizing a move for Alexander Mitrovic today. So looks like it's done.
And like everybody else who's come on this show, Fabrizio tells no lies.
No.
Liverpool and Bournemouth, home opener for the Reds, Anthony's Reds at Anfield. They are minus 450 at Bet365. Bournemouth 10-1 on the money line, and the draw is plus 550. Chelsea, Liverpool, I think Spurs and Brentford was like this too. That the crazy first half, a lot of fun, and then things kind of petered out as they tried to kind of manage the game a little bit more. It seemed like Liverpool looked like they were going to run away and hide in those first 15 minutes. And then things started to go awry. Defensively, especially, they've come undone. Like, this team comes undone, I feel like, very simply. One quick ball over the top, and it's almost like they dare you to. They're unimpressed by Route 1 football, and they think it should be like illegal or something, because if you can unlock this defense with one decent ball 20 yards up the pitch, and that's what Chelsea started to do a little bit. And both teams had some VAR stuff and whatever, but it was a fun match. I thought I came away being a little bit more impressed with Chelsea and a little kind of questioning Liverpool's defense. And I think they could be in a little bit of trouble here. Anthony, your Reds.
For the season or in this match, or both?
No, I mean, generally I think in the season they'll get it sorted, but I think this match, I just think it's going to take a little bit of time. Like, there's a lot of turnover here, especially in the middle of the field. Like, there's a lot of experience that's walked out of this team, and a lot of kind of guys who played together for forever under the same manager that are now being replaced. And I think that shows up early in the season here, and I actually don't mind taking a shot here on the Cherries.
I agree. If you follow me in the Action Network app, the award-winning Action Network app, then I already bet Bournemouth plus 2.25 before a ball was kicked this season. I still like them at plus 2, at plus 1.75. I would no longer bet the Cherries. But look, you can already see the impact of Iraola in one match. Last season, Bournemouth had the second lowest, or highest rather, pass completion rate allowed. So only West Ham allowed a higher pass completion rate. They were very passive out of possession. They did not really press at all. 82%. One match. It is one match. It's West Ham. So West Ham without Declan Rice. Okay. I don't think they're going to be second by the season's end. But Bournemouth was the second lowest pass completion rate allowed, 67%. And that is everything that Areola did at Vallecano that made them a thorn in the side of every top team they played over and over again, whether it was Barca or Real, especially those two. They beat Barca multiple times, beat Real a couple times, played some crazy back and forths with them. They make it a very frenetic game. And Liverpool is comfortable playing that pace, but Liverpool is going to be vulnerable in transition, very much so. And Bournemouth, they showed the seeds of it last year with their fun attacking group. I think they can do this again. I think they probably lose this game, but I could see very much like a 2-1, 3-2 kind of game here that Liverpool struggles to separate because their defense is so vulnerable. I had the spot circled before the season. The unique press that they play, it's hard to game plan for. It's, most teams, you see Bournemouth on the calendar, you're not expecting that. You see Rayo Vallecano on the calendar, you're not expecting that. I do think Bournemouth can give them a game this weekend. I like the +2, and wouldn't be shocked if they pulled off an upset at Anfield.
Anything for you here, BJ?
Yeah, I'm passing. I'm staring at both teams to score right now. It's you can find it as low
right now?
as minus 128.
Yeah, Bournemouth was minus 145 to score here. So
yeah, so that's a very interesting price for me looking at that. If anything, that's where I'd go, or a Bournemouth to score. Yeah, I mean, Anthony mentioned. So the problems that Liverpool have now is that, especially playing a team like Bournemouth that can really wreck you in transition, which they did last season at Vicarage Road. Or no, Vicarage Road. What am I saying? Is that right? Vitality Stadium. Excuse me. I'm thinking of Watford. They did that. They scored against them, and the match ended 1-0. But the thing what's happening with Liverpool is that since they don't have a defensive midfielder, and because they keep wanting to invert Trent Alexander-Arnold into the middle of the pitch, well, now they're playing a back three with Konate, who is great at ball covering. He's probably their most versatile defender. Van Dijk, who's old and can't cover like he used to. And Andy Robertson, who's not really a defender. He's more of like a left mid who's playing as a left back right now because, obviously Alexander-Arnold, Robertson, why they've been so good over the years is those guys getting forward down the wings and creating chances via crosses. So when you put Trent Alexander-Arnold in the middle of the pitch, well, if Konate is sitting in the back and he wants to go out from that back three and try to defend somebody out wide in transition, well, the person who's got to drop is Trent Alexander-Arnold. He's just not a good defender. So Liverpool's got this weird conundrum. And against Chelsea, they set a lot of pressing traps. They didn't just all out blitz them or press high because they were playing McAllister as a 6, which is kind of concerning to see when you're sitting back there. Cody Gakpo was playing as like a left wing back for a little while. It's just kind of moving part. I don't know. It's not a mess, but it's just kind of moving parts now with Liverpool that makes them kind of vulnerable defensively. So I agree with Anthony. I mean, I might sprinkle a little bit on the Bournemouth money line. I think they definitely have a chance here to pull off an upset.
All three of us on the Bournemouth money line. I have a feeling
they lose by 9 like last year.
Yeah,
no, they will. It's absolutely possible. On to Wolves and Brighton.
Markets had fun with this one.
Oh boy,
yes.
Wolves are plus 280 at the time of writing, or excuse me, time of recording. Brighton odds on the road minus 110. The draw plus 275. After Brighton's game, the line shot up. I bet it right before Wolves and United played because I started to get nervous, even though I knew that Wolves would give United a game. So I gotta
probably should have won that one.
They should have won, and I think that's the point I was going to make. Is that I think of almost every team. I think Newcastle, number one, came out of match week 1 as the team that kind of got the most accolades, and
top of the table.
Number 2 was probably Brighton, and then I think number 3 is actually Wolves in a losing effort.
Yep.
Against United. They were really good. I thought
they might not be dead.
It was a swashbuckling performance from Wolverhampton. We'll see what they gotta add to the squad because it's like one thing when the team is like.
This was why Lopetegui left.
I know, like it's one thing if you to do it when you have your best 11, but like I was saying earlier, when we get towards the colder months and people are hurt and stuff, like that's when it's gonna really start to trickle for Wolves. And then obviously the line comes back down after that Wolves performance. So Brighton's back at minus 110, which is about what they were when we recorded last week when you guys were saying, bet Brighton now. I still believe in that, even despite the Wolves performance. I think that Brighton's a good bet here at minus 110. I think even if they catch a little bit of that steam back that they saw in between their matches in match week 1, I would still bet the Seagulls. I just still don't believe that this Wolves team is going to be able to do that again. And all credit to them. Like, that was a front foot, like, we'll go toe to toe with Manchester United, but it was at Old Trafford under the lights, like a little bit of a different situation. No, they did not score. I mean, they should have had a penalty. They hit crossbar. It was a good show. Yeah.
How many times have we seen that from Wolves?
It wasn't like that usually. It was usually,
they weren't usually that good. I'm the Wolves.
I'll tell you this, it was like 2 years ago when they
possibly be this bad at finishing again.
Yeah, it was like 2 years ago. Remember we bet Wolves all the time, like 2 years ago against United and Tottenham, and then
and it was the same thing. It was, we're not going to have the ball. We're going to wait for our transitions, and then we're going to have like these fun guys. Like Pedro Neto was like the best player in the league. For a brief period of time. And now it's like, well, then they went to Lopetegui ball and even Bruno Lage ball. And it was like,
the Bruno Lage
we're going to keep the ball and do nothing. And that was terrible. But here's the thing. They had 16 high turnovers against Manchester United in that match at Old Trafford. If Anthony Garnacho and Rashford could not have played worse. Like, there were so many times where they just had the ball, and when they should have passed, they dribbled. And when they should have dribbled, they passed. And when they should have shot, they didn't. Or they, like, everything was awful with Man United, the front three. And yet, like, Wolves still gave up 2 XG, like, looked really under the cosh against the press for large stretches. When they broke through, yes, they were very good. But Brighton, I think, is one, better than Man United. I've been saying this all year. And two, I agree with the first market move. I think minus 130, 135 is about right. I don't think minus 105, minus 110 is. So I'm going to take the goals, who had the most attacking penalty area touches, the most expected goals. Ferguson came on, looked amazing. Matoma was Matoma. They could have had more than 4 if they finished better. I know it was Luton Town, but like, do we really think Wolves are going to replicate this? Because like, we've seen Wolves have these kind of games before. I thought that had more to do with United than Wolves, even though I like Cunha and Pedro Neto are like fun dribbler players, but like,
Yeah, the last time I saw Wolves look that impressive was every time they play Everton. They're just dominating, but they they always finish. They always finish against Everton. Yeah, they always finish.
That was their last away win. They beat Everton 2-1 in stoppage time. That was in January.
Mm-hmm.
BJ, you're also on Brighton here. So
so here's the conundrum that Wolves is in right now. Because like I agree, like with Anthony, that yes, like they succumbed to United's press pretty easily. But so when you face Brighton, you have one of 2 options. You can either play really aggressively, try and blitz them and try to create high turnovers when they try to obviously bait you in because they are so aggressive, or you can sit back and you can play very passive and sit in a low block and try to defend all of their attackers for 90 minutes. I mean, either one of them is very difficult. You have to be an elite pressing team like Newcastle to beat up Brighton, or you have to be an elite low block team to actually keep them out. Wolves is neither of those. Last season, they were bottom half of the league in every single pressing category that you can imagine. Brighton was the number 1 team in offensive passes per defensive action, meaning they were the best team at playing through pressure in the Premier League. And then you look at how Wolves defended in a low block, 13th in expected goals allowed, 16th in shots, 16th in box entries allowed, 15th in final third to box entry conversion rate allowed, along with being very average at defending set pieces. And then you also couple that with the fact that they sold Nathaniel Collins and they're starting Craig Dawson in their back line. All of it is just a really, really bad combination if you're trying to defend a top 4 offense. And De Zerbi and Gary O'Neill played each other twice when O'Neill was at Bournemouth, and Brighton created 4.9 expected goals in those two matches and really just completely pinned them in for the full 90 minutes and just created chance after chance after chance. So I'm with you guys. I like Brighton minus 110.
Okay, Spurs and United. We just kind of alluded to what United did against Wolves in that last conversation. Nonetheless, they're still a road favorite, plus 137, going to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
Market had fun with this one too.
Spurs plus 187, the draw plus 275. Anthony, you Spurs are your second or third team now. It's hard to keep track. You got a Brentford avatar on X.com. You are a diehard Liverpool
You hang out their
Jurgen
bars
Klopp
every weekend.
truther, and you got your Crystal Palace scarf on. But you also say you're a Tottenham fan.
Don't forget Brighton.
It's true.
Yeah, so there's a lot going on here. What are your thoughts?
You know, I thought Spurs played pretty well against Brentford. I wasn't sure what to expect going into the match. There were
I
some
told you
moments,
exactly what to expect, and I was right.
a high
They're going to
scoring
be good.
draw.
Michael loves
No, they were
his
just going to be
own
good.
stuff.
They were going to be
Michael,
really good,
yeah.
fun team to watch.
And look, like
Positive,
it was classic Brentford.
moving the ball quick.
Yeah, and Van de Ven played really well. Romero going off with concussion hurts because I can't imagine he turns around and plays in this match. They're going to need him. That makes me a little concerned, especially because they're going to try to play out from the back. That this match is the first real test, because we talked about Brentford, and like Brentford is very passive defensively. They pretty much sat off the second half entirely and said, "Okay, we're going to let you have the ball, do your little passing. You're just not going to get into our final third." Or you're not going to get into our penalty area. And that's what happened. I mean, Spurs finished the match with 74 passes into the final third, just 6 into the penalty area. So the attacks were breaking down consistently against Brentford, because Brentford, that's what they do. This is an entirely different setup. United is going to press. And if they press as effectively as they did against Wolves, there's going to be high turnovers because Sanchez, Dicey, and the fullbacks are not great passers. And I have my concerns about that, and that's why I bet the over 2.5. It's been juiced up a little bit. May come back toward game time, but if you can get 140, 150 or better, I think 2.5 is just too low for this total. And Ange overs are going to be a thing, and at least until the market adjusts. Then on the other side, like I'm concerned about United because Casemiro played like the worst match maybe I've ever seen him play. That was stunning transition defense. Like Alessandro Martinez kept getting pushed up the pitch as a part of like a possession thing. And then when they lost the ball, if they got by him, it was just free run at the goal. I mean, there was nothing else. So United allowed the second most touches in the penalty area of any team in the league this year. They ran out of gas. They were totally out of gas in the last 10 minutes. I mean, they literally sent a supporter on the pitch to try to add an extra man in the final 5 minutes. And then the penalty, we don't have to talk about it because obviously we can all agree it was, but whatever, it's a penalty. They were barely defending for their lives, like barely hanging on against a Wolves team that has like no actual attacking quality. So, there are concerns about United defensively that we have echoed on this show repeatedly and said like they can't possibly be rated this high defensively. They're not a good defense. They were not a good defense last year. And I think Tottenham is figuring some things out. Son out wide in the system didn't look great, so maybe they move him centrally. Richarlison played badly. Maybe they, there are things they can do to tweak this. Get Lo Celso maybe in there for Skip, move Kulusevski inside. I think you're going to see some tweaking with Ange as he tries to figure out what the best way to break down teams is. But this match, it's kind of similar to Liverpool-Chelsea with me, where like the midfields are just going to kind of be there, and Tottenham is going to give the ball away high a lot and be exposed out wide, and then they're going to break through United a bunch and get their chances. So, I don't think United's good enough to be a road favorite at Spurs, so I like Tottenham pick 'em, and I like the over as well. I think this is a 2-1, 2-2 kind of game.
Yeah, I mean, brevity is the essence of wit, right? And I think your last statement there is all I'll need to say is that United's just not good enough, and they showed it match week 1 to be a road favorite against a team that I think is still a bye. Like the Spurs team is a play-on team, and nothing that I saw in on Sunday changes that. I think they'll give up goals, but they're going to score, and James Madison maybe.
Yeah, Basuma and Madison looked awesome.
Yep.
I was impressed by them. And, Brentford away is a really tough fixture. There's a reason nobody wins there.
No, it was. And also just the way the game went, right? Like you go up, then you go down. I thought Vicario was playing like a sociopath in goal.
That's the thing that's kind of scary, though. Like United, they can press and turn him over, and
But I like, even if Spurs go down early in this game, I think it's a great live bet as well. Like I think Spurs have a profile of a team that is going to be a live better's dream, especially against teams like United and other, of the big 8, as we'll call them now.
What we're doing now. The Liverpool kind of profiles this way too. This is like very Liverpool early Klopp when they didn't have a defense and they were just kind of crazy. And I think this Ange team could be similar. I do worry a little bit about like what the attacking output looks like, but yeah, Ange has already won me over. The defensive flaws existed, but the game was, relatively even. We, dominated the shots and they had better chances because they're Brentford, but it was good match, entertaining too. Which
I forgot to bet Wisa anytime goal scorer too. Which
United went to Tottenham last year when Tottenham was at like the low of lows. It was right after they got destroyed by Newcastle. They were down like 8-0 at halftime, and Tottenham went down 2-0 early and then came storming back and like dominated the second half. And that was, the similar situation. Nobody wanted to bet Tottenham. They were a home dog, and they got the draw.
BJ, 3 for 3 here.
Oh yeah, of course. So I have a trivia question for you guys. Against the top 9 teams away from home, how many points did Manchester United have last season?
5.
Say less. It's got to be less than 10.
2.
Jesus.
At Spurs and
at Chelsea.
At Chelsea.
Every other match they lost, and they had a -12 expected goal.
They kept it close at Anfield, right?
Yeah.
Kept it close at Newcastle.
Kept it close at Newcastle. Kept it close at
Very
Arsenal.
competitive at Manchester City.
Very competitive. Yeah. I mean, this has just happened time and time and time and time and time again. And yet now they're still a road favorite. And I mean, here's the problem. And Anthony kind of hit the nail on the head, is that Ten Hag wants his team. His Ajax teams were always the most possession dominant, build up style teams that could just counter press their way through the Eredivisie, and nobody really could build out from them. Well, now he's trying to play that style. He plays Mason Mount alongside Bruno Fernandes. Neither of them are good counter pressers. So once you get by that first line of defense, it's Casemiro, and that's it until you get to the back line of the defense. And guess what? Casemiro's kind of getting old, and he makes one bad step, and boom. That's what you see, is Wolves just has chance after chance in transition. So if Wolves is able to create 2.2 expected goals, get 18 penalty box touches, what do you think Tottenham's going to be able to do? I get it. I agree with Anthony that it is a little bit scary that Tottenham's trying out this new build-up style, that it will eventually, I think, become very, very good, and they'll be a consistent top 6 team. But, it's how can you back United on the road here, especially as a favorite? So I like Tottenham. Draw no bet at plus 115. I do project this match dead on at a pick'em. Obviously using priors without making really much adjustments. So 3 for 3.
3 for 3 on Brighton. 3 for 3 on Spurs. Maybe we'll make it 3 for 3 on this next team too.
You'd like that.
Everton.
Yep.
Traveling to Aston Villa. And what better time than right before we talk about Everton to introduce you to Caldera Lab. It's a skincare routine that I like to do in the morning right before I brush my teeth. And look, when you're betting on as many terrible soccer teams as we all are, you're going to want to have a decent skincare routine, and that's exactly what Caldera Lab is. It's just 3 products: the clean slate, the base layer, and the good. The clean slate is the face wash, the base layer is the moisturizer, and the good is a serum I use at night to reduce my visible wrinkles, most of which are caused by betting on Everton, the team we're about to talk about next. And just for our audience, you are wonderful Wondergoal listeners. we have an exclusive offer, their best offer anywhere. Use the code GOAL at calderalab.com. That's CALDERA lab.com. And you get 20% off. Once again, the offer code is GOAL at calderalab.com. 20% off to make you look younger and like you don't bet on soccer. So that's what you want. You don't want people knowing that you're going to be betting Everton.
Skincare is important because I do a lot of sweating before 10 a.m. Eastern. So I got a clean slate for the day after soccer's over.
Here we go.
Everton.
Yeah.
My first Everton bet of the year. I'm so excited. I missed out on that bloodbath last weekend. I felt really lucky.
Oh my God.
Bet him. And
So
then I watched the game and I'm like, oh no. Oh no.
Here's a quick anecdote. So Everton's traveling to Villa this weekend. Villa's minus 150, Everton 4-1 on the three-way line, and the draw's 3-1. My older brother Dave, he's a big Spurs guy. Invited me over so that our daughters can play while we watched Everton. And I texted him back, yes, only because I think that they're going to win. Like, I actually feel really good about this game. Don't want Isla to see me when Everton is. She's already seen me, like, enough when they're losing games to Wolves and Bournemouth and stuff. So I don't. She already knows her dad's a loser. I don't want to keep reminding her, especially on a beautiful summer morning. Neil Mopai missed that first shot. It was a great take. A shot from just outside the box, and I was like, damn, they look good. And then they proceeded just to kick the ball at Burn Leno, mostly off the foot of Neil Mopai. And my brother, God bless him, just kept reminding me they're gonna score. Like, they're right there. They're right on the doorstep. And I agreed with him. I was like, yeah, the goal is coming. And then Michael Keane scores a goal that gets disallowed.
Yeah.
And I'm in the other room. And I hear him clap. And he comes in. He's like, Keane just scored 1-0. And I was like, picked up Isla, come back in. And she was doing some bullshit, so I couldn't even see the replay or anything. And I just assumed that Everton's up 1-0 at this point for like 4 minutes.
Oh no.
And then I look up at the scoreboard, I see it's 0-0. And I'm like, what happened? He's like, yeah, they chalked it off or whatever. I left at halftime, and Isla got to see me just have an absolute meltdown in the second half because it couldn't have been more obvious. And I know better. Like, I know so much better than to think that a Neil Maupay missed chance 4 minutes into a game from outside the box is a harbinger of good things to come.
Against Fulham of all teams, Michael.
What was I thinking? I have no idea. Anyways, I'm on Everton here. I think they played well. They can't score. Neil Maupay will be leading the line again, most likely. And
what happened to DCL?
He was hurt, got hurt again, and hurt again, and hurt again. And Sean Dyche said that his rehab. He's not done with his rehab. I think they want him. They don't want him coming back for a 30-minute stint and then getting hurt again. They want him 90 minutes because they know they're going to get 3 games out of him. So they better all be 390s. But good news is that they brought in a striker from Sporting, who's a 19-year-old project for the future. So he'll definitely help.
Pan out.
Most expected goals created by Everton. If you went back to last year, no team created more expected goals without scoring a goal than they did against Fulham on Saturday. How can you not bet them here?
It's a great spot. I mean, I also like the over 2.5. And then find minus.
They're not going to score.
But
Villa will probably score 3.
So Villa's going to be an interesting conundrum now that. Sorry, let me start that again. I just totally forgot his name.
Mings?
Who got hurt?
Mings.
3, 2, 1. Yeah, I mean, I like Everton here. I also like over 2.5 at minus 110. I know they can't score, but Tyrone Mings is now going to be out for an extended period of time. So that means it's going to be Pau Torres back there, which, yes, is going to be great for Aston Villa and their build-up play, but he's not a great defender. He's not a physical defender. He's not great in the air. He's not great defending inside the box, and that's something that Tyrone Mings really provided for Aston Villa. He was their best last-ditch defender, blocking shots, defending inside the penalty area, being one of the best aerial duel winners in the Premier League. Losing that is going to be incredibly key for them. And Aston Villa as well. I mean, Unai Emery is kind of limiting his team because he just wants to play out of the back. He doesn't really want to try and even play in transition. It's just have to build out of the back, And that's what you saw against Newcastle is they just beat them up. They forced a bunch of high turnovers and got in transitional opportunities, and that was that. Michael, do you know who created the second most high turnovers other than Manchester United in match week 1? Everton forced 14 high turnovers against Fulham.
They were so good, except for the most important thing.
Sean Dyche he's not a low block guy anymore. We've said this a million times, but he's going to come out. He's going to press you. He's going to make this thing high event style, back and forth. And that's exactly what he did to Aston Villa on February 25th last year. I don't know if you remember that match, but Everton won the expected goals battle. They were by far the better team. And then Aston Villa makes a penalty. They convert a transitional opportunity and they win the match 2-0 despite, losing on non-penalty expected goals 1.9 to 0.9. So
at Everton.
Yeah.
I remember that match.
Yeah. No, I love Everton here. I love over 2.5. Sean Dyche matches since he took over last season are averaging well over 3 expected goals. Unai Emery matches since he took over on November 1st are averaging 2.7 expected goals. So a total of 2.5 just sitting at minus 110 for a match that is most likely going to be very up and down for an Aston Villa team that wants to build it out of the back, for an Everton team that's going to press them high. It's going to create a lot of chaos. So I like over 2.5 and I like Everton as well.
I think part of what's made Dyche kind of embrace a more hostile defensive press is that when Everton win the ball, like they've got great progressors. Like Iwobi's awesome.
Played really well this week. 3 shots too. Yeah.
So, like they I think in the center, their center of their defense can still be a headache with, especially when Michael Keane's in. But everything was working. Ashley Young, maybe he can earn an England call up to Euro if he keeps playing as well as he did as a 39-year-old. But everything was working. But then the ball lands on Neil Mopai's foot, and look, I'm rooting for the guy. I obviously, and it's just you just sit there and you wonder how it's harder. It's got to be harder at this point for this guy to missing these chances than to banking them. But like I said, Everton plus 4. They're as high as plus 450.
Yeah, Villa no Buendia for a while. Mings out, Ramsey out, Bailey's questionable. Out, yep. Like that's a lot of losses to that midfield, to that attacking group that wasn't that good last year. Like they were fine, but I think Everton turns them over a bunch and is live here. So I agree.
Perfect. And that Everton section was brought to you by our friends at Caldera Lab. Be sure to pick up their products if you're going to be joining us on Everton because they will aid you. And judging by where their number's been the first 2 weeks, we're going to be betting them a lot this season. Now, home to Wolves next week. All right, let's finish up the Premier League section with these last 2 matches. West Ham and Chelsea. The Hammers plus 300 at home. They drew Bournemouth 1-1. Chelsea minus 110. The draw is plus 260. This is an easy pass for me. I'm not going near it.
DJ, I'm curious. Do you have West Ham favored here?
No, I made massive adjustments to Chelsea.
Oh, you did? All right.
I did.
You just went off
and I made those massive adjustments, and all I could get was Chelsea plus 130. So we'll see.
Yeah, this is if you just went off of last year's data. This is a crazy line for Chelsea to be a road favorite.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, it's an interesting conversation to have. Is how
far does it go in favor of Chelsea? Is Moises Caicedo this good? Is he the best player in the league? they still can't score. West Ham, I didn't think they played well against Bournemouth at all. Couldn't string together passes. They had a couple good transitions. They had a couple moments, but couldn't control the game. You gave up 60% of the ball to Bournemouth. It was fine. Was not impressed. So yeah, I kind of want to pass here and just watch this match, and I think we'll learn a lot about both teams.
Yeah, if you're looking for spots,
maybe. Chelsea. We talked about their lack of shots and West Ham's lack of shots.
Yeah, it's so hard.
I bet a Chelsea under. They're going to score every shot.
West Ham they're bad. It looks like Paqueta's gone. I don't know if he sticks around for this match for one more swan song. maybe you could talk me into West Ham, but I have Chelsea projected at plus 130, and that's after making some pretty sizable bumps for them for their transfer market activity and new manager and everything like that. But yeah, like Anthony said, if you're just going purely on expected goal differential from last season, this line is insane. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'll probably
I think Chelsea Spurs are probably the two teams that I would say, outside of the newly promoted side, said I think you can kind of punt the numbers from last year a little bit.
Yeah,
because it's just so hard to work in these adjustments. It's a lot of pencil and paper handicapping, and I think it was John Champion who was calling their game against Liverpool who used the word insipid to describe Chelsea last year, and they're just not going to be insipid this year. So it's hard to take the data from an insipid season and put it and apply it to a team that should improve drastically.
Yeah, it's true, but also at the same token,
half of their minutes, half their XG gone.
Yeah,
exactly. But then they also look at this, but then you have to look at the line. You say Chelsea minus 112. And you just sit there and you look at that and you say, obviously they're way, way better, but how far do we go?
Right. If this was April 1st, we'd all be we'd be talking.
Of course. This would be,
Chelsea were minus 110 at Wolves last year. I bet it, and they lost. Yeah. But how is this? How is that right now? Yeah. That makes more sense. Chelsea minus 110 at West Ham is whoa.
Yep.
Yeah.
Market's very down on the Hammers too, which is interesting.
They are.
Given that line at Bournemouth, I thought we'd get a better number, and thought we'd get a better number here.
All right, so pass for us. Let's wrap it up here with your Arsenal, BJ.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
Luck box.
Monday Night Football at Selhurst Park. Palace is plus 500. Roy Hodgson, baby. Trying to fight people. God love the man.
It's just tapped? Is that what happened? It looked like
yeah. He didn't like it, which, hey, I wouldn't either. Roy. Arsenal's minus 175 on the road. The draw is 3-1. We remember this fixture from last year because it was the opening fixture, and Palace ran the show, but were very unlucky.
Right.
Against Arsenal in a 2-0 loss. I think that this number looks right. It's another pretty easy pass, which is unfortunate. Jurriën Timber for Arsenal is out for the season.
Yep.
So much for that defensive depth that BJ was hyping.
Yeah. Well, we got Tomiyasu back. We're okay.
Yeah. Well,
what are your thoughts?
We also are one injury away from Rob Holding again.
I'm on the Eagles at home. 1.25. I'm all over the Eagles. Minus 115 ish. I'd bet it. Right now, the way it's sitting, look, we talked about Arsenal. If Saka and Martinelli run this good all year like they did last year, they're going to be really, really good again. If they progress at all, then they're in the top 4 race. I think it's, Palace are still going to be a very difficult defensive team to break down. They're just not going to be able to score against any good teams.
PJ?
Pretty much. Yeah. That's, I don't really see a path here for Crystal Palace scoring. Losing Timber obviously hurts, but Arsenal, they have depth, they have Kiwior, they've slotted Ben White into a right center back position, played Thomas Partey as a right back so that he could invert alongside Declan Rice, which gives them more solidity in transitional defending. So it's going to be very difficult for Crystal Palace to actually score here if they want to play a transitional type match. So But yeah, the number looks about right for me. I had Arsenal projected at minus 133. So if I had to bet anything and if I was neutral, I guess you could make a case that, the number on Palace maybe has a little bit of expected value. But again, I don't really want to get anywhere near the Palace attack.
BJ showing value against his Gunners regularly is always fun.
I am, because my projections are unbiased, unlike
because they overperformed their numbers badly.
Well, yeah, Anthony sprinkles in the Liverpool adjustment automatically.
Yeah, they're the best in the league.
Okay, let's move on. That's the Premier League done and dusted. We'll get back to it at the end of the show with our favorite bets. To Germany now.
Welcome back,
Harry Kane at Bayern Munich. I think my favorite bet for this week in the Bundesliga is going to be probably Bremen to beat Kane or to score first. He's minus 250 as an anytime goal scorer, by the way.
I think Bayern has won every one of these fixtures on this Friday opener 6-0 for 7 years.
They had that one against Gladbach.
I was going to say, wait a second.
Yeah, a couple years ago.
The Fulham destroyed them. It was the Joe Scally game.
Joe Scally, you're right. I was going to say it was
they play
the Philly
Schalke.
kid.
I feel like they play Schalke every opening Friday and just beat them 6-0.
Yeah.
I don't remember last year, but I do remember the Bayern Gladbach 3-3, the just electric 2-2 maybe electric factory, and it was we had 3 XG and we should have won. Yeah, it was great.
Yep. I'm gonna try to play against Bayern here somehow and play against Kane, but
maybe Bremen to score first.
Yeah, exactly, or Kane to get red carded.
We'll have more conversations about the Bundesliga and Bayern in the future when we didn't run super long on the Premier League discussion because we're running long here, but Bayern under Tuchel have just not been good. They haven't.
All right, Anthony, what's your favorite bet in Germany?
Yeah, I mean, what a matchup to start the season. Union Berlin against Mainz. Mainz plus a half, minus 110. I mean, we had this conversation. I think I bet it both fixtures last year. I bet the team on the road plus a half and just was like, this match ends in a draw more often than any other fixture in the Bundesliga because of how low event these two teams are. They had the same goal difference, same XG difference. Mainz has a more valuable transfer team. We like both managers. We think they both kind of get more out of their talent than what the talent suggests. But I mean, cool. Union's in the Champions League. They finished 4th last year. They ran unbelievably well to do it. You look at the way these squads project this year, they're not that much different from each other. So I'm going to take the half goal and probably ends in a draw.
BJ, what about you?
Yeah, I like Leipzig. Draw no bet at plus 104. Why are they an underdog against Leverkusen, given what we saw last season? I get that Leipzig has had a bunch of turnover and they've lost Soboslai and they've lost Nkunku, but me and Anthony talked about this in our European preview, is that they've pretty much retooled and been about the same offensively, adding Sesko, adding Obenda, adding Xavi Simons. They're just as good offensively as they were last season. And yes, Gvardiol leaving to Manchester City obviously hurts their defense, but they still have a solid back line. I mean, under Marco Rosa, they were one of the best defensive teams across Europe last season. That's not just going to completely drop off just because they lose one defender. And if you look at the underlying metrics, I mean, they were miles better than Leverkusen. So I'm really not so sure that a Leverkusen team that's not going to have Patrick Schick, that's going to be without one of their main defenders, that's going to be without, that obviously has lost Moussa Diaby, should be even a home favorite here against Leipzig. So I like them drawing a bet at plus 104.
Diaby was the great equalizer because he was so good at getting him behind and just scoring a goal out of nothing. Losing him, I think, is pretty important for this team. Hard to replace.
La Liga, it's just you, BJ. You're on an island. Not Majorca, but an island.
Oh, well, Atletico, Real Betis, over 2.5 goals at plus 120. We can't keep hanging these over 2.5s at plus money with Atletico. Michael, Diego Simeone, I've said this many times, he's changed. He's a changed man. No more
Sean Dyche.
No more 4-4-2 low block. It is high event, foot on the pedal, attacking football from Diego Simeone. Since the beginning of March, he switched his formation to a 5-3-2, 3-5-2, whatever, to provide more width, attack in the wide areas, create more space in the middle for Griezmann, Morata, Memphis Depay. His matches since that beginning of March 1st are averaging 3.37 expected goals. That's insane. And we saw it in the first match against Granada. They scored 3 goals, created about 3 expected goals. Real Betis is a very, very average La Liga team in terms of, they like to build out of the back. They like to play kind of slow possession. But with Atletico's new style, we can't keep hanging these over 2.5s at plus 120. So I'm going to keep betting them until the market adjusts.
Serie A is back.
It is. Welcome back, Italy.
What do you got?
Oh, we can't kick off a European season without both teams to score no, right?
No.
Lecce, Lazio, both teams to score no, minus 110. Lecce, worst offensive team in Serie A last season, 0.83 non-penalty expected goals per 90, but did only allow around 1 expected goal per 90 defensively. So a very, very good defensive outfit, very, very good at defending their penalty area. Lazio just lost Milinkovic-Savic, who is their best ball progressor, best guy passing to Ciro Immobile for him to overperform. Lazio was a middling offensive team in Serie A by expected goals. We've moaned about them over and over again. They overperformed offensively like crazy. So minus 110, I think is too short. I have this projected at minus 170. So both teams have scored no in Lecce and Lazio.
Anthony, you are also going to ring in a new Serie A season with a bet.
Yeah, Bologna plus 0.5 against AC Milan. I have my question marks about Milan's midfield. They brought in some fun signings, and I think they could end up better in the long run as a result. But in the signings being Yunus Musa, Christian Pulisic, Samuel Chukwueze, some fun wingers, especially. Pulisic should start out wide on the right for them this weekend. But the midfield is just kind of a mess. They lost Tonali. They haven't replaced him. I'm really not still sold on Musa. He's not expected to start here. It could be a Krunic at the base of midfield. He's kind of light and ball winning. Benacer is injured. And they, like I said, they lost Tonali. So I think there's going to be some growing pains from Milan here. And as a road favorite, pretty much even, minus 0.5 on the road, I like Bologna plus 0.5, catching that half goal. Because I think that Milan's going to grow into this season. I think they're going to struggle early. Meanwhile, Giroud, by the way, still getting over 3 shots per 90, which is crazy. He is 35, so the cliff could come at any time for Olivier, although I'm not betting against that happening because he's timeless and ageless.
Yeah, incredibly good looking. All right, Ligue, real quick. BJ, you can go first.
Yeah, this is kind of shocking for me, but I like PSG minus 145 on the road against Toulouse. Mbappe's back. Looks like they've squashed the beef. He's going to be back in the selection. So this
Neymar goes.
Neymar's gone. This number's just really, really too low for a team that's now going to have Mbappe. And I think the PSG signings over the summer, I think it's going to help them in the long run defensively, but they needed Mbappe offensively. Like, we can't be playing a front three of Asensio, Gonzalo Ramos, and Kang In Lee if you're going to compete for the Champions League. So bringing Mbappe back really makes them better. Toulouse lost 2 of their best midfielders in the transfer window and didn't really replace them. And PSG hammered them in both meetings last season. So I think minus 145 is far, far too short for a PSG team that's going to have Mbappe this weekend on the road at Toulouse.
All right, Anthony.
Look, in betting, we talk about the post-hype. Strasbourg 2 years ago was a good team. They had plus 0.3 XG difference per 90. They were so good that BJ and I bought in like suckers and thought they could make a run at the top 4.
We did.
They had a Murphy's Law season, of which I am now willing to throw out and say that we need to stop caring about everything that went wrong last year with this team because they've retooled, they've bolted up the midfield, improved the defense, and hired a manager that we all, I think, like here in Patrick Vieira, and had a very impressive showing at home against Lyon last weekend. I know they got outshot in the end. I think it was like 28-7, but 15 of those shots came after they were up to 2-0, and they were winning on XG, winning on shots, outplaying them in the first 80 minutes, and then it was just a barrage from Lyon at the end. Now they are plus 0.5 at Monaco, who ran really well defensively last year and really has some real holes. And I really don't think there's that big of a gap between these two teams when you look at their underlying numbers anymore and their talent level. So I'm going to take Strasbourg plus 0.5 at Monaco.
All right, and now the moment we all look forward to all week, our 3-leg underdog parlay. BJ, you're going to go first. I'll go second, and then Anthony's going to bring us home with a doozy here. This parlay is going to pay out 306 or 307 to 1.
0-3 last weekend, it could be said.
What's that?
0-3 last weekend.
Yeah, no. So not only is it 307 to 1, but we're due. And I love this thing.
Yep, Claremont. I got the shortest leg of this parlay. Claremont Foot
and the worst team.
Claremont Foot plus 330 on the road against Stade de Reims. Post World Cup, these two had literally the exact same expected goal differential, and that was a Reims team with Florian Balogun. They've lost him, which means you have to downgrade them significantly offensively. Claremont Foot did the double over Reims last season, won both meetings, one early on in the season, and then one later where they also won the expected goals battle on the road against Reims. So I think for two teams that are essentially even, plus 330 is an insane price.
I'm going with Everton. Plus 450 on the road at Aston Villa. I don't even want to talk about it any further than that. They're gonna lose 2-1 or not, probably 1-0 and post 1.8 xG. But you just got to be encouraged with what you saw, or try to be encouraged with what you saw out of Everton in match week 1. Meanwhile, Villa's going to be missing Mings. Emi Buendia is probably out for the season. This looks like a team on solid footing. A lot of us expected Villa to be pretty stable. I don't know if that's going to be the case here in those first few weeks. This is a team I want to play against. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to use Everton to do it. So plus 450 on the Toffees. Come on, you Blues. Anthony, this parlay is going to end up being 306-ish to 1. That means you're going to have a pretty substantial price here. Usually I'm the one giving out 14 to 1 losers, but this time it's you.
Yeah, Bournemouth 12 to 1 against Liverpool. We talked about this in the section when we discussed Areola and how he impacts the way teams play, and Bournemouth pressing more, taking away possession time, forcing turnovers, attacking in transition, all the things that I think can really rattle this Liverpool team that still does not have a defensive midfielder. Look, the Reds have so much attacking firepower. They could just run away and hide and win this game easily. But on the off chance that the Cherries are as dangerous as they showed they can be in the past and played decently well against West Ham, they are alive to pull off an upset here. They're good on set pieces too, which has been an issue for Liverpool and was again an issue last week. So give me the Cherries 12 to 1 on the road at Anfield to pull off season stunner.
This kicks off the parlay too. So if this hits, we go to Sunday, Michael, with you and me. I believe around the same time.
Yeah. Bournemouth, Claremont Foot, and Everton, 306 to 1, or thereabouts. So have some fun with us this weekend. All right, out to our favorite bets for match week 2 in the Premier League. BJ, what do you got?
Yeah, I like Aston Villa, Everton over 2.5 goals at minus 110. Aston Villa is going to be without Tyrone Mings for an extended period of time. He is their best penalty box defender, their best aerial ball winner. Now they're going to have to play Pau Torres and play a more build-up style, which is what Unai Emery demands from his team. But Everton is a fantastic high-pressing team, forced 14 high turnovers against Fulham in match week 1, and that's something Sean Dyche really emphasizes with this team since he took over, since in the middle of February last year. His matches at Everton are averaging well over 3 expected goals. They created almost 3 expected goals against Fulham, couldn't put one in the back of the net. But if they continue this type of offensive prowess against an Aston Villa defense that was very, very vulnerable in transition in match week 1 against Newcastle, we could get a very high event style match like we did the last time these two teams played last season. So I like over 2.5 goals at minus 110.
Tip top Tottenham, plus 187, hosting Manchester United. I'm not totally sure why United is a road favorite. We had question marks about this team coming into the season, thought they were a little overvalued in the betting market. I think everybody thought that this was just going to be a linear progression for Manchester United. They finished 3rd last year, win an EFL Cup trophy, qualify for Champions League, all that. And it doesn't look like it's going to be that simple for this team. They still have some serious defensive flaws. That's not a good thing against a Tottenham Hotspur team that looks live going forward under new manager Ange Postecoglou. Spurs can give this United team a whole host of issues going the other way. So this line just doesn't make sense to me. I'll take Spurs as the home dog. Ange gets his first Premier League win. Anthony, that makes you happy.
Oh, yeah.
Take us home.
Almost as happy as a Brighton win would make me, because they were my best bet last week, -1.5. And for the second straight week, I will be backing the Brighton Seagulls, this time on the money line, -105 against the Wolves. Look, I appreciated Wolves' performance at Man United. It was a good showing. They look lively in transition. But Brighton has a ton more talent. They had the most box entries, most penalty area touches, completely ran over Luton Town. Looked like they did not miss a beat in that match. And I know that Wolves are clearly better than Luton Town, but Wolves have a ton of turnover issues they're going to continue to have all year because they are not playing how they used to play under Lopetegui. And there are takebacks and drawbacks to playing how they're playing now. And one of the big ones is they're going to give away the ball high, and Brighton will turn that into goals and win this match. So give me the goals.
All right, that does it for this episode, Match Week 2 preview in the Premier League of Wondergoal. Thank you to our sponsors, Bet365 and Caldera Lab. Thank you to our audio and video producers, David Payne and Hutton Jackson. Thank you to you, dear listener. Good luck this week. Remember to put in that parlay, 306-1, Claremont Foot, Everton, and Bournemouth. Maybe all of us can celebrate together next week. For BJ Cunningham and Anthony DeBunda, I'm Michael Leboff. We will see you again next week.